and then I can.
All right. Yeah. All good.
Okay. I'm trying to even think how like podcasts start.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
All right, let's get going here. So obviously, first episode, first try at this. My name's Steven. I'm here with.
Yeah. My name's Taylor. We spent like 45 minutes on a full Zoom call already trying to set up the OBS. So
Yeah,
mics are
yeah. We
working.
said the first. Yeah, our mindset was kind of just get something started, try. The first one would be bad, but it was even worse than we thought it
Yeah.
could. So we took a while to get here, but we're here. We're trying to give the first episode, and I mean, it's even tough to call it an episode because I don't even know fully what direction we're going. I think we both have an idea of what we want to try and do, and we have this like loose vision of something that involves, I don't know if you, I wouldn't even call it a media company or anything like that, but like this loose idea of just creating and putting content out there. And like we have an idea of a niche to maybe go in. But yeah, it's very rough. So this is kind of like the first step towards trying to figure something out.
Yeah. The bar was on the floor. We've already tripped over it. It's
Yeah.
second take of the first episode, but we're living by our values, so that counts for something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think when we chatted about it, like again, as we said, our mindset was just put something out there and kind of refine it and go. But I know both you and I are in a similar spot where, we work a job, but we've always been interested in startups, design, arts, streetwear, things like that. Restaurants, whatever you want to call it. And basically the idea of people who have an idea and actually try and make it happen, no matter what the scale is. But I think we use the term like, they're trying to make life a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun. And we are currently, at least myself, I work at a bank. So I'm basically as far away from that world as possible. And I'd like to get towards that world. So hopefully this is a step, but very loose idea. And then we're just trying to move a little bit closer there.
Yeah, I think like background too, we already had a conversation of just kind of brainstorming and like everything we read, everything that I guess people who are in the creative space or have started something, it's always just start it.
Yeah.
And the bars that's the most difficult part. So we I think both have a tendency to like plan things out and just try to be like, oh, we're just gonna
Yeah.
make this perfect product and then everyone's gonna come wanting to try it, and it seems like
The opposite.
no
Yeah.
one wants to
Yeah.
try it. Um,
Well, we've learned the opposite of what to do. So you can
yeah,
only go up from there.
yeah. This is a learning experience, but
Yeah.
we're also sharing that. I think the other idea was just kind of like, hey, why not rather than make a podcast of us trying to start and share other ideas? Why not just make the podcast one of those ideas?
Yeah.
And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. One of the ideas, I guess we can jump into like the mood boards.
Sure.
Um, so like one of our ideas was just like, okay, how do we sort of start to think about even what is the podcast really about? I know we've talked about it, but it's mostly kind of like here's an idea of something we want to do, but it's not necessarily like, again, we don't have the plan figured out. This is us figuring it out as we go and just sharing it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I just started with like a Google Doc, again, trying not to use like Figma or these fancy tools, just trying to keep it as DIY as I
Yeah. Well, and
could.
and sorry to jump in. I think like the one thing I was thinking that like might be helpful, and I think perhaps some of the goal with this podcast or whatever it becomes is, like I said, we want to talk about people who are doing things, creating things, but we also want to do that as well, whether that's with this or through another business. And like I think I know for me, like um when you almost don't even know like the first step, like let alone coming up with like a name or like a website theme or a brand or a slogan or anything. So this is like literally as low barrier step as we could possibly do. So like I don't know if it's helpful at all. I mean, like I know myself when I think about like um just getting something started, it's like just throwing together images is like literally as basic as it can get. And it's like a first step that you can actually do. And like I know when we talked about doing this, I was actually kind of excited to just like because you almost can't even when an idea is so like raw or so
You
I
can't
don't know.
verbalize it. It's just grunts and hand
Yeah, yeah,
waving.
it's just like, oh, a music video I watched, and it's like, what music video? I don't know.
It's a
There was
really
something,
cool one.
yeah, there was something in my head that told me to like, I have this idea that doesn't make any sense. So this is literally the most basic step we could possibly come up with. So, if it adds value, I don't know, but like again, this is us workshopping shit and seeing, if there's anything that can come from it.
Well, I think it's also too like us trying to get on the same page, right? Like when you're
Yeah.
sharing ideas, especially when it's so rough, it's like sometimes easier just to like show pictures. So yeah, I just started collecting some images. I know. Maybe I'll actually skip to the end here of how I came to some of these. So I was kind of working a little bit backwards. So like kind of trying to think of like the aesthetic or how I imagine things. So it's kind of like to me, I think this is all about like anti-corporate, like anti-big corporation. That's like a bunch of like people in suits or who take themselves real serious. I think this is like really big on like the DIY side. Like I think it's like all the like the people
Yeah.
who are just making cool stuff, and it's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
yeah. So that's kind of where I was coming from. Just and I've kind of been like really into like the like I don't know, kind of like early web aesthetics and like pixel art, glitch art, that type of stuff, but while still being like kind of playful, friendly, like you're not taking yourself too serious. So I just started like things that I saw, like even just like the typefaces and the like the clouds, the colors, like the use of like some pixel
Yeah.
art and stuff. So like this that was kind of the theme there. And then again, I don't even know where I found this one, but it's just kind of a little bit cartoony. It was like a
Yeah.
dashboard. Um, this one's another one again. Like this guy's just a really cool artist. He does like NFTs and stuff. He's like a PhD student and he's studying biomedical engineering, but then
Oh
he's
yeah.
also doing art, and his art's honestly amazing. Like it's so cool. But his website I thought was kind of like what I was thinking of is just like it's like simple. And it's kind of got that again that early web aesthetic, but it's like you can see like the like it's putting the focus on the art. And it's got kind of like a really like again like anti-corporate vibe to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah, and I just kind of these ones were just kind of random again with a playful side of with like the clouds, kind of the Disney streetwear type aesthetic. Going back to like the retro video games.
Yeah.
This is more NFT stuff, but it's just kind of like again that like not like super over the top heavy like React like type of modern framework type designs. It's like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
school. This one was like from a Japanese the Suzuka circuit like kart racing. Like I really like the just their way of like typography. Like it just has it's very simple, but it has like a feel to it that I can't quite describe again. But it's like it feels like it was made with like ink, like very like
Yeah.
texture based, and it's just like something I'd want to put on my wall, like in a way. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's just, but it's like not fancy. Um, so yeah, and just like off white, I think I've got in here. Their website was again using the simple borders.
Yeah.
Rip and Dip was one. They again with a playful side of things. But yeah, this was just kind of like the vibe I was feeling with, just like kind of art focused, but it's not like over the top. Everything's over designed, over polished, that sort of thing. So I think it's like maybe that's one way to think of it too. Just like I'm thinking of it like things that are not polished.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think that's somewhat similar wave. And so you have aesthetic, yeah, like retro anime.
Yeah. So
Uh,
usually I'll like what I'll do is I'll just like make like themes and like keywords of just
yeah.
stuff that they probably don't even make sense necessarily, but it's like yeah, just like just start it was one. Because that's like kind of what it is just like just getting going even if it's not perfect. The rest were just kind of like words that popped into my head of like creation or trying things, like fresh
Yeah.
starts, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
um so yeah, I don't know what you think of those, but
Nice. No, I like that Disney sweater you showed and like the um yeah, I appreciate as well that you articulated it with words. I didn't even get that far. It was just images. But I think you kind of touched on it too. Like the anti-corporate, like, I mean, corporate, I mean, I think we kind of talked about that, like, working corporate jobs and stuff like that. I mean, interested in startups, but even when I think of, podcasts, or like, I find they're all insanely serious. Like, it's just like a mental model for like the perfect like marketing campaign, or just like these like Asperger's like guys who just are the most dull humans. So I think, and even when you look at their logos for their podcasts and how they present themselves, it's like so professional. It's so, um, I don't know, clean cut. It looks like some big design firm, like, was designing a logo for like a bank or something. And that's what they came up with. So I think, I don't know, I definitely have the same idea where it's like cartoony and fun, and like, not low barrier, but just something that's a little more, I don't know, taking serious topics like business and creation, and like, but like viewing it and talking about it from like how actual human beings operate, and not like some mental model like Stanford PhD kid.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays we learn more through like memes than we do through like a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
like, oh, read this like 7,000 word essay. It's like, I don't know. No thanks.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Cool. Well, no, that's dope. I
All
like
right,
it.
cool. Yeah, I don't know what your mood board looked like.
It's not appropriate.
Just
Um
the
so
second mood board you had.
so mine is just
Oh, did we lose you? We are having technical difficulties. Steve is in need of a new computer, and I
let me know if you
think.
can see
Oh,
that.
are you back? Yeah, we
Hello,
lost
hello.
you.
Come on. Oh, yeah. Sorry. It froze on you.
Yeah, your screen's not sharing.
Give me 2 seconds. I think it's definitely time for a new computer.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. And you can hear me okay?
Yeah. Oh, I can't believe I didn't think of Meow Wolf.
Yeah. So I didn't come up with any words. I just put it all on like a PowerPoint. So I mean, it's kind of random images, but like, I think the overall sense is like I've tried to go with like color and like cartoony and fun. Um, like in that bottom right, I think that was like a shoe I found in like, I think it's a knockoff Nike, but it's just like a random like Mario shoe, which is just like fun and weird. And even like the top right, that image of like Donkey Kong and Diddy, like that was from the Tokyo airport when I flew in. That, like, to me, that's just something where it's like that's the last thing you expect to see in an airport, is something so weird like Donkey Kong. And like I just love that.
I didn't realize that was the airport. That's cool.
Yeah. So like, but like, you think back to it, and it's like someone who was in, charge of designing the airport was like, let's put Donkey Kong on the wall. And it's like, to me, that's like fun and interesting. Um, I think some of the other images, like, yeah, the Meow Wolf logo is just very blocky. It's very colorful, which I think is kind of the vibe that like I almost picture in my head. And then the Thrasher logo is just like a very, again, it's weird, like it's on fire, and it's like there's just like a connotation that comes with it that's, I don't know, it's like you just know whatever it represents is going to be kind of like counterculture and unique.
I'm a 1,000% on board with the '90s McDonald's aesthetic. I can't believe I forgot about this. It's like my favorite.
I think you sent it to me, so that's how I found it. But like, just like weird, like
just the whole concept of grimace just like cracks me up. It's just like, who came up with this? And then we're like going to put this in like our restaurants of like just this like
totally
purple blob. I love it.
So it's just weird. It's just weird. Like, it's weird and playful and cool. And like, I think if you walked into a McDonald's back then, like, it just, I don't know, it's probably like subconsciously taking the edge off. Like, I think that top image there was like just an image of a streetwear store in Tokyo. I don't even know what it's called, but like the fact that it's just like a big panda or something on it, like, again, that's not as related to like the vibe for like a website or something, but like kind of just showing what I'm thinking about with this is like, again, a creator taking some playful risk that was like interesting. The believe in your flyness, like, I don't know. I don't even know how I came across that, but it was just like the pink font on like a black background was cool. That plus 44, which I think again you showed that to me, like Lewis Hamilton's brand, where I don't think anything's out yet, but it's just like the clean, retro, colorful um vibe that comes with it. Um, I don't know, the image of the Grim Reaper with watches. I don't even know. Like it was just came across that. I think the hundreds logo I always thought was kind of interesting, where it's just like a cartoon bomb. Um,
Got
but in terms
M-
of like if you were to
MJ on there.
MJ, yeah, I mean that was just kind of like one with the throwback photo where it's like um I don't know, that retro vibe and like, obviously he's not a creator, but it's like cool and like interesting. And then like, if you were actually to think through like whether it's a website or a newsletter or whatever, like what the design of it would be, like I'd probably say the images that are kind of on the bottom would somewhat represent like the bottom left. I think that it was from John Contino, like the designer, but like I think it just like it almost looks like video game text, and it was for some, I don't even know what it was promoting, but everything was just like born weird, and it was just like this colorful one-eyed toucan with teeth, and then it was like video game style text with like bright green, bright pink.
Yeah, it's like a
Uh,
bit schizo. Yeah, no, I
yeah,
like it. So you're thinking more colorful though. Like I was initially more monochrome, but I think that I tend to always go towards like monochrome with like splashes of like accent colors, but I think you're seeing it more colorful,
well,
which I'm for. Like I'm not against it,
yeah.
but it's just
I
that's
guess
cool because that's a little different than how I was picturing in my head originally.
I mean, the way I'm thinking about it is like, like realistically, I'm not like, if we're talking about getting guests or whatever, like, this isn't some podcast like trying to get like whatever big guests. It's like it probably will be like when I think of creators, I think of business owners, restaurant owners, like anyone who's like trying to like, and I don't know if you want to call it like an artistic business or something like that, or whether it's fashion, whatever. They're in the business world. It's like a serious thing, and like all the other business podcasts are just like the lamest thing ever that are like so serious, where they talk about like operating margins. And like to me, what's more interesting was when someone starts a business that they know is like not a good business, but they're just like, I have to do this because it's like my
By
soul. And like,
compulsion.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, and they make it work or whatever. And like to me, that's like more art than it is business. And it's like if I'm almost more interested in like appealing to that side of people. So like if they were to come on or like, interact with us online or whatever, it's like my thought is like I'd almost want to like just set the tone that it's like, yeah, like this is, you're talking about your passion, your life work, your business, whatever, but like it's from this angle of like fun and color and like again, just like picture like Tim Ferriss and Andrew Huberman. That's what I was picturing in my brain. Like, what's the opposite of of that? And like this is what came
Only
up.
one
So
girlfriend at a time.
yes, monogamy. But so yeah, so that was kind of like the the thought when I was kind of putting it together, and just like I don't know, I think we're kind of on the same page with like a lot of Japanese influence with like Nintendo. Um, but just like yeah, like weird stuff like
So
Mario and
how do you think
like
your like trip to Japan changed your like aesthetic? Would you have made the same one before you went?
I mean, yeah, maybe not because like that's a good question. Like it's definitely way more like thoughtful there, I found. Like um yeah, like I think there, like to what I was saying earlier, where it's like a business that's like a passion that like again, they know it's not a good business. Like the ideal business is like a software company or some shit. I don't know. That's like dull. Yet people open restaurants all the time, knowing that like 90% of them fail. And I think in like Japan, the one thing that like noticed is like I felt like they like worked in art into like the everyday business brick and mortar than like you probably would in North America, especially Canada. Like it's I don't know, like they're expressing it through like a thing. Like if you went to a restaurant, there's more like just the way it's set up. Like I don't know. That was probably what I picked up on. So like I think that probably influences like how I think and like what I'm interested in terms of like where we go with this. Like I like to talk about people like that. So I think that's like focusing on the fun part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like with color and whatnot. I don't know. I don't think that made sense, but
No, I get what you're saying. Like, so, because
yeah.
like I haven't been to Japan. I want to go, but I've heard like people take pride in their like jobs, even if it's that like 7-Eleven or something, in a way that's
Yeah, for
different
sure.
than in like Western culture, which I think is kind of like the vibe we're going for, where it's like yeah, it's like you actually find this interesting beyond just like a paycheck. It's like something you're expressing yourself through. But you also want to be able to like support yourself and like eat food
Yeah.
is also nice.
Oh,
But
for
yeah,
sure. Like, yeah. Like to me, what's like, I don't know. What's interesting is like, um, I don't know what 100 grand, 200 grand, like someone who can make that kind of living off of like, I don't know, like making a passion or something like that commercial and like sustainable. Like that's interesting to me.
yeah. No, it makes like culture and everything more interesting than like so many people get stuck into like 9 to 5s with to get their mortgage,
Oh
and
yeah.
then it's just like we don't have enough people taking risks, and
Yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah.
trying to be part of the solution.
Yeah. So I don't know, like with that, as we sort of prefaced it, like the mood board is almost a substitute for an idea where it's just like starting with something. But like when I try and think through next steps, like again, I don't have a clear vision of what it looks like, whether it's a podcast, newsletter, all of the above, but it probably involves some sort of logo, involves some sort of website, involves some sort of newsletter, which I think would probably pull from some of this mood board stuff. But I don't know. Like, what do you think is like the next thing that you have to do?
I
Or
think we need
do?
like catchy sound bites. So you need to say something controversial.
I mean, that should come in due time. Um,
Enough airtime will get those. I think yeah, like the so I first of all I really like the way you laid out the mood board. Usually I'll use like Figma or something, but I was trying to when I ran out of free Figma boards, I didn't want to pay for it, and I'm
yeah,
also trying to like use free tools, and I think like not just be like one of the things I'm working through right now is trying to like minimum simplify my tooling. I think like it's so easy to be like, oh, before I start
yeah,
podcasting, I need to like research mics and
some
get like the
hack or
fancy
some shit.
mic and
Yeah,
all this stuff. So I'm like trying to like push myself to be more like just use what you've got and you can improve on it, right?
yeah. I think
I
I remember like when, sorry to cut you off, but like when Virgil and Off White did like the Nike collab or whatever, he talked about like just like changing things 2% or something, and it was just like I don't can't remember exact quote, but it was something about like it's way more accessible and like you can actually do it. And he's like most things are good, but you change that 2% and it changes everything. So I don't know. I think that kind of relates.
yeah, even if if you're changing 2% each episode, you change 2%. It's like over 10 episodes, you're going to make like a pretty big improvement.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like that's the kind of the way I'm looking at it. But my instinct is always to go the opposite and like, oh, I want to like plan things out and get this like I want to always like I love doing a really good job, but then it's just like it kind of like works against you,
For sure.
and it
Yeah.
just acts as like a barrier. But the one thing I was going to say was I really liked the way you laid out the mood board. I think like that was a lot
Thank
better
you.
than like mine, just because it's like
Yours.
it is kind of like you're just throwing ideas out, but when they're overlaid like that, it's a little easier to see and get a feel for what you're going for. So yeah, that's how I would
Yeah, I
definitely
mean,
adopt that.
I could have done words like you said. Like I think if I had to try and put words, like there's probably a lot of overlap with what you had, but like I think fun comes to mind, colorful, cartoon, um, retro, video game, like um, I don't know, like yeah, which I think you had some of those, but like definitely skews towards like that angle of like the opposite of serious is kind of what I was hoping for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm kind of thinking like next steps. Like I think we one that's going to come up quick is just like the name. It's like what do we even
Yeah.
call this?
Truth hunters, truth seekers, keepers
truth
of the truth.
truth hunters. I love it. It's I'm sold.
Uh,
The other thing too, I don't know, maybe this is another topic, but like just like the hooks of like how we make it interesting beyond just like, hey, here's like just a like us sitting here talking. I've got ideas for that, but we can make that later. But like a few things were just like I was trying to think like could we do this like while we're walking or something, or like there's movement involved, or maybe that's taking it too far. Like I think we discussed like we just play like video games, stream it, and then
Yeah.
just have discussion. But then it's like, how is that different than just like being a streamer? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, I do agree that like perhaps there's an angle with that rather than I don't know, just being like a podcast. I mean, I think you and I are on the same wavelength that it's not like a podcast to be a podcast. Like it's more so just like being able to talk to people and things like that. But so I don't know. I don't know if that makes it more or less appealing to have some sort of like other angle with it, whether it's like streaming something. I don't know. We could think about that. Like
okay.
we could even, go ahead.
What do you think of like if we're like, so one idea I had was just like if it's like us following it, like we start with this and we're like building stuff, and it's just like, hey, here we discuss like something that we worked on this week with our own like side adventure. The other thing was just like kind of gimmicks was just like, what if we had like a timer? We set a timer every time we start working, and then it's like at the end of the week, it's like, hey, here's my timer. Here's what it's at. Here's the things I worked on, and it's almost like a way to like show that's like not everyone's. I don't know. I feel like you get like there's like the whole grind set like TikTok
Elon
mentality is
Musk.
just like I
Wake
wake
up,
up,
work.
I sleep every 3 hours, and now I only have like an extra like 4 hours a day and that sort of stuff. Like,
Well, and I think what I find with like even like we're talking about with this, where it's like the first step. So like if we're talking about like creators and designers and it's like whatever, it's like uh, for me at least a huge hurdle is just like I don't even know where to begin. So like I'll sit down on my computer and you're just like I don't even know what the fuck to like take is like the first step.
yeah,
Like it's like what like I don't know for school where it's like oh you've got an exam studies chapters 1 through 3 you just start reading chapter 1 whereas like when it's like something so like loose or whatever, like it makes it like hard to work because you're just like I don't even know where to begin, like let alone like grind for like 18 hours. Like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's, and that's probably where like we're going against like, or at least I hope we're gonna be different from like yeah, like the Tim Ferriss podcast where it's just like I don't know, like those guys is like don't even understand not wanting to work. Like it's just like that's the way they are. So I don't know. I think I agree with that. That like maybe that's interesting where you just like recapping and talking about like what we're trying to do on the side as well.
yeah. Because I'm thinking like I don't know. We're going to need stuff to like talk about, and I think like we were thinking of this as like, hey, let's share how we go through building, trying to build stuff, and maybe other people find it interesting. And then once we get some traction, we can like start like interviewing other people who build stuff and learning from them.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that that works for me. Um, I do think yeah we can change the name, but it's like I guess that is kind of important. Is like you need something to upload the titles and create the channel under. Um,
Yeah.
that
Do you
naming
have
is
any
always super hard.
do you have any ideas? Like sometimes I think the naming is easier but harder than you think, which I mean is a nothing statement, but
Um,
like definitely obsess and be like I want some crazy meaning behind it, and it's like in reality it doesn't. Like I mean, the easy thing is to be like the TNS show, Taylor Stevens show, or something like that. But I think like similar to my mood board. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, like I think with the mood board, like I'm talking about like color, cartoon, all that stuff. Like
yeah,
I don't know. Like I would almost like to me it's sort of like you don't want to be like schizo and it make zero sense and be like, we're like the Bubbles podcast. But
yeah,
like whereas people are just like, is that about like bubbles? There probably is a podcast dedicated to bubbles. But um to me, I think it would be like interesting if it was like something a little playful, like whatever it is. Just like I don't know if you could somehow, and then like maybe like the slogan is where you kind of give a little bit more info that like this isn't just the Bubbles podcast, like this is something real, but like, and I'm always picturing it like with like a logo or whatever that's like similar to the mood board where it's like color and stuff like that. So I don't know. That's my first thought.
yeah. Yeah, no, I'm on the same page. I had the keywords is just like just start it, start something, moonshot, try. Like but they weren't like necessarily like that's what the name should be. It's more like that's like a
Yeah.
metaphor for it.
I mean,
Um
as you said, moonshot, it did make me think that like that kind of goes with like the cartoony, like retro vibe, like there's like the NASA streetwear brand or whatever it is, and like I could almost picture like something like that where it's like an astronaut with like I don't know, cartoony. So like I'm not saying moonshot. I'm sure there is a podcast called Moonshot where it's like how to scale your business from one to but like something like related that's like or like the Moonshot podcast that isn't like autistic people in Silicon Valley talking about like scaling businesses.
yeah, that I'm on the same page. I could definitely see something with like yeah, planet, space, globe, moon, whatever making and then like as part of the logo. Um yeah. The other ones were just like lab was one dream,
Yeah.
like you're dreaming of something lab in the sense that it's like experimental R&D. Skunk Works, I think that's like the R&D at was it Lockheed Martin? I can't remember now. Um
Oh,
Nouveau, you'll hear like Nouveau Rich or whatever that is. I feel like I'm pronouncing that wrong. Um
yeah.
Dynasty Pod, just short for like podcast. I don't know. These were just like things that were popping in my head,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
more like I guess the general concept is just like something new.
Yeah.
It's grassroots and there's like a striving aspect to it. Like it's not even about where you end up. It's just about like striving towards it, right?
Mhm.
So that's kind of
Yeah. No,
how I'm kind of like seeing it. As for actual like word, like the name, I don't know. I'll have to give more thought to it, but
yeah. 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 No, I mean, I think the moon boards will help. Sorry, not the mood boards will help with that as well. Um,
so what was the process for Preacher? I'm trying to remember because like I was involved in
yeah.
that a bit, but I think it was kind of theme based, wasn't it? Is how they started with it.
Yeah, so I guess for context, so Preacher is a business that I started that sells wake surf boards. So it's very small right now, and Taylor's been involved like from the start. But so for the name and the logo, we worked with a design agency, which I think I don't know, I probably wouldn't do it again. Is my thought just like the whole process? Like I feel like there's a bit of a lack of creativity and stuff. But anyways, that process was we kind of like not even a mood board, but gave like ideas and vibes and things like that. And I think like what I'd said to them was something along the lines of like, touching on real surfing and like how like real surfing is almost like a religious experience. Like it sort of transcends just like normal sport and the way people view it and like how important it is to them. So there was kind of like the religious like vibe or spirituality vibe with it. And then they pitched a bunch of ideas. And then I like Preacher because there's a little like counterculture, a little like um I don't know, risky or whatever to like invoke like the actual image of religion or whatever. But yeah, that was kind of the process with that. It was just like a very loose vibe, and then they just kind of pitched ideas.
Here, this might be a bad idea, but what if we did like so if we start with like our themes, like the
Yeah.
keyword, flesh out the mood board a little bit more, and then we just start like coming up with names.
Yeah.
Just as
Like almost.
like just trying to do more like volume based,
Yeah.
and then the next step we can do like a narrow down of like these are the ones we like, and then we can kind of reevaluate if it's still fitting the theme or maybe we actually focus group it, get some feedback from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, no, that sounds good to me. We can just like go back and forth, text names, and then maybe the next time we do this, just like go over some of the ones we thought were good.
Yeah, that could probably just be a whole episode of just us doing that, and
Yeah.
then go from there. Because I think the name is like it's like not important, but also seems important. If that makes sense, like it's like the
No, I
hook,
totally agree.
but
Like,
then
it is
it's at
what
the
you
same
make
time
it, but
you can get hung up on it where you're just like again, it's
yeah.
like you could literally be the blocker for starting something for quite
Yeah.
a while.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah, no, that sounds good to me. If we want to plan on that for the next episode, I think that makes sense. And we can just kind of like text back and forth and think and go from there.
Right. Yeah, we got less than a minute left on our free Zoom call as a
All right.
bootstrapped podcast here.
All right. Well, we'll check in next week.
All right.